friends, Amanda with you here today for La La Land Crafts, and today I'm going to share with you how I created this adorable little Winnie the Pooh card with Eeyore. I am obsessed. Isn't he so cute? Ugh. So let's get into some of the supplies that you're going to need. So first up, we are going to look at the stamp sets that I've used. I've used Oh Bother, and I use the sentiment, sometimes all you need is a little bit of honey. So that's the sentiment that I used for this card. Hold On Tight, we're going to use this adorable little bear. And that figures, and we're going to use this Eeyore. I put mine on magnets so they don't shift around in my packaging. So this is my magnet. It doesn't come with magnets. I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And this is the tree branch die. This is the A2 Bookplate die. And it comes, this is a section, and these all cut out individually, these little inside squares, so that's really cool. I've also used the new paperback In the Forest, and this is a 6x6 designer paper, and this is really cool. I can open this up real fast. And it comes with front and back, so we can flip through these. The back side is like if you're going to use a slimline, so you get two different sets of that, and then on the other side it's a full sheet, a full 6x6. So that's the paper pack. Amazing as always from La La Land Crafts. And then I also used the Beehive Die that was released a few years back, but this is perfect for this set. And along with the Beehive Die, I used the Grass Patches die set. I only used these two. The bigger one was not used in this card, but those are the grasses from La La Land Crafts that were also released a few years back. Those are the dies that you're going to need if you're going to follow along and to create this card. Okay, for the colors, I've used these greens if you'd like to take a snapshot: G9, G94, and YG63. And like I said, that's for the grasses and for the green leaves. For Winnie the Pooh himself, along with the beehive, I've used YR24, YR23, Y26, Y35, and E34. E34 is kind of the darker shade, if you will. So these are Ohuhu markers. They've been on the market for a little while. I own the entire set, and I wanted to try them out here on La La Land Crafts and see what everybody thinks about them. The colors that I used is B27, B260, and B120. And if you're looking for the color combination for COPIC colors, it's going to be a variant of B23, B24, B32, B21, right around in there. So if you're looking for COPIC colors for that, that would be those colors. Again, I didn't have all of those colors for COPICs, and one color I'm out of my ink refill, so I just went with my Ohuhu markers. So there's that. For the cheeks, obviously, is my go-to pinks. R22, R20, and R00. And sorry for the, I have glue. Guys, seriously, as a crafter, I think we all get it. I have glue on my sweatshirt, so sorry about that. And then I have the branch color, which is E44 and E43. That's dirty. Ew. Let's try that side. E43. All right, so let's go ahead and start making this card, and I'm excited to be back here on La La Land Crafts showing you some fun products. I've taken the Eeyore and the Winnie the Pooh, and I'm stamping them on my Copic friendly cardstock using Memento Tuxedo Black ink and just pushing it down using my Misty. Perfect. Here are those Ohuhu markers. Now, not everybody uses Ohuhu, so one thing that I would mention about them is the tip is not as squishy as COPIC markers. So if you prefer to have a stronger tip, these would work perfectly for you. They're great for fine detailing, but the flicking motion isn't exactly the same as using a COPIC. So I'm going to be leaving the center of his belly pink, just like the Eeyore in the good old vintage Winnie the Pooh cartoons and movies. And I'm using my darkest color first. I like using my darkest color first. I tend to be a little more careful when it comes to adding my shading when I do it first. So, giving him his pink belly using the COPIC markers R22, R20, and R00. There we go. Now the blues for the Ohuhu markers, they are B70, B60, and B120. And I'm going in with my second darkest color and just dragging out some of the dark color that I've already put down and blending them together. These blend very similar to COPIC. I do notice that I have to blend just a little bit more with them, but overall very similar. I am leaving quite a bit of the center of him for the lightest blue. I don't want him to look too dark, but giving him some cheeks, going around his muzzle and his ears. And again, here's the lightest blue. And I do notice with the Ohuhu markers that you have to get the whole entire image right away, because if it dries and you go over it a second time, it tends to darken it up just a little bit more. So you'll see here I have to go over it a couple times just to make sure it's nice and even. COPIC markers, that isn't really the same. Like, you can blend over the top of it, and if it dries, it's gonna be very similar. But with Ohuhus, it seems like it darkens it up just a little bit. At least that's what I found. So I try to go over the entire image as fast as possible so that it doesn't have a chance to dry and I have to go over it again. Just gonna darken up some of those shadows just a little bit more so that it gives it some more definition. If you'd like to see more coloring with Ohuhu markers, just leave a comment down below in the comment section and I will try to accommodate. I like using them. Again, they're very similar to COPIC and they're a little bit cheaper, but most of my coloring I do with COPIC markers for you, so you don't have to worry. If you don't want to see more Ohuhu coloring, then we can skip that and just do COPICs as much as possible. This is where I noticed that I didn't color him as fast as possible, and there was just a few lines, so I went back over him. Giving him his cheeks with his R22, R20, and R00, and a little bit on his muzzle. So cute. Took a white gel marker and I'm going to give him some of those little shine lines and highlights just to make him look really fun and cute. And then we're going to fussy cut him out. Eeyore is so adorable. Just adding in those little white gel pen highlights, and then we're going to fussy cut him out. Moving on to our Winnie the Pooh, I am using colors Y35, YR24, YR23, Y26, and Y35. And using the E34, I am rounding out his belly so that it looks like it's going to pop forward. can see that I'm leaving just enough space between the black line and the darker highlight to make things look like they're popping forward. Because at the end, when we go over with our lightest color, it'll look like a highlight. So it'll look like the belly and the objects are more rounded instead of a flat shape. And like usual, I am going to play some music. You can watch me color, and I will come back when we're about ready to do the beehive. All right, enjoy. All right, I have die cut my honeycomb out of Copic friendly paper because we are going to color it up using Copics, using YR24, YR23, Y26, and Y35. Using the darkest color first, I am going along the cut edges to make it pop forward just like we did with the dark lines on our stamped images, because we want it to look more 3D than flat. So using the darkest color and just going to go to the lightest color next, and the lightest and the lightest, and so on and so forth, dragging out that color each and every time to give it that 3D blended effect. And right there you can see I messed up. My marker was a bit dry, so I just swapped it out for an E25 instead of the E47 and just covered it up. I'm adding the white gel pen details and just giving it some highlights for that whimsical cuteness. The beehive is done, and we're going to do the branches. So for those greens, we've used G99, G94, YG63. And for the browns, for the branch, we used E44 and E43. I love coloring up my die cut images. It gives it that no-line color and whimsical feel. We're going to do some of the highlights on some of these leaves. And then this branch is done. I'm taking the A2 Bookplate Die over the In the Forest paper, and I used the same COPIC color markers as mimicking the colors in that paper pack on purpose because I wanted it to look very matchy-matchy. I took a khaki colored paper and using the frame, the outer frame of that Bookplate die, I die cut that out. And then I cut my paper for In the Forest 4 by 1/16 by 5.5. And now I'm laying it over top of my A2 top fold card. And then I'm going to layer everything up. Just pushing everything down, making sure we get a good seal. Taking that frame, and when I lay down my layers over top of this, I want to leave just a little bit of spacing in between each of the cuts to give it that little framed feel, just like that. And then I'm going to glue everything down. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do with this card, I knew that I wanted to have Pooh balancing on the back of Eeyore, trying effortlessly to get that honey out of that beehive. So I was just playing around with placement to see where I wanted everything to fit and how it was going to work. And I think we've got it arranged pretty nicely here. Adding the glue on the back of the branches, and I will be cutting off the very tail of that branch, so it's not hanging over the side of my card, and getting them placed just right is important. Here's where you're going to see I'm going to cut off his little hand in the back just so it looks like he's reaching inside of the honeycomb to get out that last little morsel of honey. And I'm cutting right up to his nose just so there's not this huge color difference, because we did color his hand so it would have shown. So I cut it right up to the black line. And now we're going to glue them all down. Alright, taking those 2 grass patches die. It comes in a set of 3, but here we're only using 2. And I die cut them out on COPIC friendly paper. Again, we're going to COPIC color them up using our darkest color first and then going to the lightest and the lightest. G99, G94, and YG63. I want my lightest color to the top of these little grasses so that everything pops, and giving them some shading. Going to go back in at the very base with the darkest color, just darkening it up just ever so slightly, and then popping them out and placing them on our card. Alright, we're going to take the 3 bumblebees, and I don't need to use my stamping platform as these are very small and they will stamp perfectly. And I'm going to stamp them right on top of the paper. And yes, I do color them up with Copic markers. It works just fine. These are a very small detail. You don't have to worry about, oh, I didn't use 3 colors to blend. You're not even going to notice. I used 1 color, which was Y35, I believe. And I just touch up the yellow parts, and that's it. Oh no, correction, that was YR23. And I'm using my white gel pen and just touching their little wings, giving them just a little bit of white to help them pop just a little bit. But look at that, you can't even tell. It looks like it's part of the paper. Now we're going to use the sentiment. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of honey. And just stamping it straight onto the paper. That's all for today, friends. Thanks so much for stopping, and do come again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!